Welcome to this special YouTube edition of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on this episode, it is blues guitarist Hamish Anderson. We talk about his new album, Trouble, and a lot more. Before checking that out, please check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON, One on One Mitch Lafon on Facebook, and paypal.me/Mitch Lafon should you care to support the podcast and this YouTube page. And now, without further ado, here is the one, the only, Hamish Anderson. We are speaking with Hamish Anderson. The new album is Trouble. Blues rock is what we're getting. Hamish, always a pleasure. We've done this before. Nice to have you back.
Yeah, thank you for having.
So let's talk about this, because, we did the, what was it, Relentless, was it, the EP?
Oh, the Restless, yeah.
Restless. What started with an R? I was close, right?
Exactly.
Right. No, but we talked about that EP before. You came up to Ottawa and played the Blues Fest. We talked about that. So let's talk about the trajectory of all of this. How did you get to putting this album together?
Yeah, basically, it's pretty much took like a year and a half to put it all together, and it was done in 3 little blocks. And yeah, basically all that time at Ottawa and stuff, I was kind of trying out new songs and just in the writing process. And yeah, it really kind of all started coming together when I met Jim Scott, who produced the album. And yeah, we just hit it off and kind of had the same way that we like to record and work. And yeah, that's when it really started to come together.
How important is a first album for a new artist?
Yeah, I think it's very important. Like I'd done 2 EPs before this, and doing the album was, a completely different thing from, having that many songs to sequence and trying to make like a larger statement and stuff. So yeah, definitely it really, as a independent artist and whatever, it feels kind of like a milestone doing the first album.
Talk to me also a bit about the challenges of being a new artist, because everybody says, well, there's no money in the business, and which is sort of a fallacy, because if you look at, for example, Adele, she just cleared $13 million on like 6 or 7 shows at the Staples Center in L.A. So there is money there. It's just a question of finding it. So what are some of the challenges you face, and what is sort of the game plan as you move forward?
Yeah, I think, the music industry especially is kind of changing at such a rapid rate at the moment, like everything is, but really, so much has changed with the music industry of, from streaming to downloading and all that stuff, that it is hard to kind of find the places where, you have to spend money to make an album. And then nowadays, a lot of people think that, an album should be free, which still doesn't really make any sense to me, because it's like with anything else, if you got a meal or had someone do, electrical work or whatever, you pay for that. But for some reason, yeah, music's at a funny place where people think it should all be free. And, there's big advantages to having streaming sites and the internet being able to reach so many people. But it's that double-edged sword of, you're not selling CDs or selling a piece of work like people used to be able to. So it's definitely a struggle, but I think very much so the live element of it, there's still a really good kind of, outlet for reaching new people and being able to kind of get paid and stuff. So definitely, yeah, live performance is still a really exciting part about it.
Let me talk about a little bit about the whole free concept. And is it maybe that the business has changed in how we deliver the product, whereas CD was the product before, and now maybe we're getting to, it's the live show and it's all the merchandise and it's the T-shirts, and the music sort of becomes the poster that invites you into that world? Because you look at Prince, that did shows where he gave out CDs if you bought a ticket. Journey did that, and Bon Jovi is doing that with their new album. Is that something that might be, the CD is not about selling them anymore? It's about just promoting the artist, and then the real money is in the tour?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what's happening. But I think, the thing that's most hard is for those guys like Prince and Bon Jovi and stuff. It's like they've already got so much and done so much that it's like they can afford to do that and give, they don't have to have people buy their albums. But the hardest part, I think, now is for people trying to break into the industry and, not necessarily being on a huge label and things like that. That's where it's really hard and can be frustrating to think that, you put all this work in, you kind of have to give it away for free. But I think, like you said, that's just the way things seem to be moving, and that seems to be happening more and more.
In terms of getting on a major label, you've done this mostly independent. Is there a benefit for you to be on a major label and at this point, or any kind of drawback?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hard one. Like I like being independent at the moment, and it really, at the end of the day, it just means that I have, full control over what I'm doing, and that, everything that's on the album was something that meant something to me and was something I wanted, personally I would want to listen to. Whereas on a label, you can hear kind of the horror stories about them trying to take control and make the artist sound a certain way and look a certain way and write a certain type of song. So yeah, I think it's a hard thing, but I think that's a great thing about the day and age we live in, is now you can do it independently and you can do it yourself, and you can market it yourself and be in charge of all your social media stuff. And so I think being on a major label would have some perks, but I think also there's a lot of pitfalls with it.
Yeah, well, there certainly are. You do talk about having sort of creative control, being in the genre that you're in, which is, not the mainstream genre. It's not the rap, and it's not, some of the pop music and stuff. It might be a little bit harder to build an audience. Are you going to stick true to doing what you do, or at some point would you say, okay, let me go write a pop song for this, let me go, or is it sort of blues, rock, or death kind of thing?
Yeah, I think just for me, that's kind of the music that I love, and I love blues and I love rock and roll and I love folk and soul, and it's all that type of roots music that for me is what excites me, and it always seems to end up that way. So yeah, I don't really think I could just be like, I'm gonna just write a pop song or a rap song. Like, I don't even think that would. Don't even think I'd be able to really do it, because it's just, yeah, what kind of, what comes out naturally is the more bluesy, rocky, acousticy type of sound. So I think, definitely for me, it's I've always been very inspired by that music, and I still am. So I think it'll always have traces of that and be in that vein.
You had in the past opened for B.B. King. When I last spoke to you, it was something that had been somewhat recent.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on it now, how does that memory sit with you in terms of, is it one of those where you just go, wow, but pinch me, I actually opened for B.B. King, or how do you look at it? How do you reflect upon it at this point?
Yeah, definitely, it's part of that. Definitely, it seems surreal, and yeah, it was an amazing experience. It was very bittersweet, because it was it was meant to be, I think, 7 or 6 shows, and it turned out to be 2, and then he got sick and had to cancel the tour, and not long after that he passed away. So yeah, it was very, like, super bittersweet at the time, I think, but it was also, coming from Australia and having been introduced to his records by my dad when I was like 15, it was just surreal to be like, even standing on stage watching him, perform. It was just something that I'll really always cherish.
The one thing that whenever I interview an artist that does blues rock and stuff, one of the questions that fans always want me to ask is about the gear. What gear do you use? Now, I'll be upfront. I am not a gear expert. I mean, I know the guitars that Kiss used, but that's pretty much as far as my. But you're a big fan of the 52 Telly and all that stuff. So talk to me about the gear that you use and the sounds that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's funny as well. I'm super into guitars and playing them, but I'm totally not the biggest gear head type of person. But yeah, really for me, the 52 Telly, I have the replica of that, which is just, that was kind of the first version of the Telecaster really they made. So it's a very bare bones guitar, and that's really what I like about it. And the Telecasters, for me, it took a while to even feel comfortable playing it, because I'd been playing a Strat and it felt so different, but I think they're just such versatile guitars, and they can really play all kinds of genres. So I love Telecaster, and generally recently I've just been using a little Fender Deluxe Reverb that I bought, and yeah, it's a great amp. It can get, you know, real loud and break up nice, and you know, break your back kind of carrying it around. But I think the great thing on this record as well was in the studio was kind of experimenting with different sounds and different guitars, and Jim Scott's studio, he has, you know, all these amazing guitars and amps from like the 60s, and you know, he has a beautiful Jazzmaster which I used on Trouble, and a really beautiful 12-string Rickenbacker that he got from Keith Richards Guitar Tech that I used on a track called My Love. So that was really fun, just kind of plugging in and searching for new sounds and trying to change it up.
You know, you mentioned the songs, so let's talk about those a bit. Are they songs that tell a personal story, or if you understand the question here, did you sort of just write a song because it sounds cool kind of thing?
No, I think very much my writing, I always feel like the stuff I end up using and that I resonate with is always about personal experience, and it's, you know, I'm not the type of writer, at least at the moment, that I can just, you know, make up a story about whatever and yeah, kind of tell a story. It's more personal and yeah, kind of like a therapeutic thing going through writing for me. So it definitely, in the past 2 years especially, like I've had a lot of change in my life, kind of moving over to the States from Australia, and yeah, kind of having to start anew in a way and be away from, you know, the place that I was my whole life and stuff. So I think a lot of that came through, and seeing, you know, different parts of America and friendships and relationships and all that stuff kind of came through in the songs.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that move then. You were in Melbourne and you came over here, and as a Canadian myself, I've always thought that Australia is like the best country in the world, and why would anybody ever want to leave? But is the music business in the States just that much more accessible and success more, I don't want to say guaranteed, but it's sort of easier to achieve? Or talk to me just about the move and sort of the reasons behind it.
Yeah, I didn't. It's funny. Like originally, I was coming over to LA just to do like a showcase and a little tour that a few other Australian bands were doing. So it was like I was going to be over here for like 3 months or so. And then coming here, it's just things just started to happen a lot more over here. Like I met my manager here and got signed to a booking agency here, and it just kind of started to be that more and more work was happening here. But I would have thought that, you know, when you come to somewhere like LA as well, it's like almost everyone you see on the street and whatever is basically here trying to get noticed, and it's kind of where everyone, you know, acting or music or art, whatever comes out to. So I would have thought that it would have been a really hard, not that it hasn't been, but it would have been a lot harder. But here, I think just because in America that's maybe, you know, where blues is from and rock is from and stuff, that just something about it still has a really good audience and people that want to hear that type of music. So yeah, Melbourne, you know, Melbourne's still my favorite city in the world, and I love Australia and stuff, but I think just out here for my music, it seems to have moved a lot faster than it was there.
Which is, you know, the sort of the story that everybody tells is that you have to be in the center of the industry to be noticed. Jim Scott, you've mentioned him a couple of times. He's worked with Tom Petty. What did he bring to the table, and what do you learn from somebody that's had that experience of working with one of the greatest artists ever?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, like being around Jim and some other people I've been lucky enough to work with, it's just you want to kind of soak up as much from them as you can and learn as much as you can. And yeah, Jim was someone who had worked on like some of my favorite albums ever, like especially Wildflowers by Tom Petty is just a perfect album to me. And I think the best thing about Jim is he's really a song guy. Like it's really, the most important thing is that the songs are great and they're at the best place they can be, and they're going to be something that's going to, you know, resonate. And it's like he doesn't mess around, and it's not in a mean way, but he'll tell you when something's not working or something's not really hitting the spot. And I think that's something that I really need someone. I have ideas, really clear ideas of what I want and how I want things to sound, but I always feel like I need someone to bounce stuff off, because people that like produce their own records solo, that's awesome, but I always think for me it would just be so hard to be like subjective or objective, whatever, about like what you're doing and what you're creating. So I think Jim, just most of all, he just creates like a vibe and makes everyone feel really comfortable, and he really does bring out the best in the musicians playing and the songs, and he's just really pays such close attention that it was a big learning lesson for me.
Yeah, and I think it's important whenever I'm about to review an album or something, and I see self-produced, I just shudder. I just go, oh my God, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have those external ears. And for those of who are listening who don't know Jim, I mean, he's also done Dixie Chicks, Sting, Rolling Stone, Crowded House. I mean, he's the real deal. Would you ever consider self-producing an album, or are you sort of like me and think, yeah, you know what, you need those external ears, that filter? Okay.
Yeah, no, I do. I agree. I think you need someone. I'd like to maybe slip into more producing with someone, doing it together. But definitely, I think it just, it's like, I just feel like I could fall into self-indulgent type of stuff if I didn't have, not knowing, what the best take is and being able to critique yourself on vocals and whatever. It's like, it's great to have someone else that you really trust and respect and that can tell you, when you can do better or when you're trying too hard, and that stuff, I find it just really relaxing and helpful in the studio.
Yeah, and I've noticed that too. It's either you're too soft on yourself and everything is a great take, or you're too hard on yourself and everything's an awful take. So you need those ears. In terms of career, you just mentioned that at some point maybe you'd like to produce other people. Is there a sort of you'll do anything to make it, like you'll go produce if you have to produce? Would you join a band? Let's say the Rolling Stones needs a touring guitarist and invite you. Do you go do that, or do you stick to just being, no, I'm a solo artist and I'm a singer and this is what I do, and that's it?
I mean, the Stones are my
maybe not the
band ever. So I would it would probably be an amazing experience, but then also it might be scary because you love them kind of for what they are. But I think definitely, a great thing. I think it's kind of hard sometimes, especially as a solo artist, because you're doing your music so much and having to really be in charge of so much, of the decisions, that I do think it would be nice at some stage just to kind of, play guitar for someone else or produce for someone else or write for someone else, just as kind of, just an exercise to keep kind of evolving and trying new things. So definitely if it was the right type of thing, I think I would definitely be open to it.
Just move along to the Rolling Stones. Why not?
If I have to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, hey, I'd come along for the ride too. Trouble came out earlier this year in October. Mm-hmm. What are sort of the plans in terms of touring and getting us into 2017? Are we looking at all the sort of blues fest around North America and Europe, or is it sort of solo club shows? What's sort of the game plan?
Yeah, definitely next year looking at a lot of that stuff, trying to do more festival stuff and trying to tour quite a lot the first half of the year and just sorting all that out. And it's been great. I mean, I got really lucky this year to be on quite a long tour, opening up for this new band called The Rides that has Stephen Stills in it and Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Barry Goldberg. And that was great because that was, another one of those tours that just, I got to go all around and play to really great audiences. And since releasing the record, it's been very much kind of shows around LA, California area. And now I'm going to do a little radio tour type of thing next week, and then just a little break over Christmas, and then, announcing a whole bunch of touring and hitting it hard started next year.
Yeah, isn't that great? The word touring is always great. I love to get out on the road. Hamish, always a pleasure. We should keep doing this, and great. Best of luck with Trouble. It's nice to see that the EPs and stuff have evolved into a full opus, and good on you, as they say.
No, thank you, man.
And there we go. Thank you.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
Thanks, man. You too. Good talking.
And there you have it, folks, my interview with Hamish Anderson. The new album is Trouble. Do check that out. While you're checking stuff out, please head over to Twitter. Check me out at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON, and one-on-one Mitch Lafon on Facebook and paypal.me/Mitch Lafon, should you care to support the podcast. And with that, I bid you a fond farewell. Adios. Bye for now. Oh my.